Welcome, I'm Ijoma Onyato. Tonight, Department of State Services foils planned attacks on Kano, Kaduna and Sokoto states during the forthcoming Eid al-Fitr celebrations. Acting President Yemi Osinbajo challenges military on the use of cyberspace to tackle the threat of insurgency. Supreme Court sacks Herman Hembe and Abdullahi Danladi from the National Assembly, orders them to pay back salaries and entitlements within 90 days. And US President Donald Trump questions the neutrality of Robert Mueller, who is investigating Russian interference in last year's election.
And on business news tonight, Central Bank of Nigeria releases $240 million for retail secondary market intervention sales ahead of Eid al-Fitr holidays.
And in sports news, 5 Nigerian basketballers selected from the prestigious NBA draft of 60 and will feature in the 2017-2018 NBA season.
Nigerian Labour Congress demands a fair tax regime for all citizens, regardless of their social status.
The Department of State Services has announced the arrest of an explosives expert, Bashir Mohammed, who was allegedly planning to attack markets, public parks, public processions and worship centres during the forthcoming Salah celebration. The spokesperson of the DSS, Mr. Nnanan Nochiri, says the security outfit has also uncovered plans by suspected terrorists to infiltrate the ranks of the Islamic movement of Nigeria during their rallies. They have, however, advised members of the group to desist from staging any form of procession or demonstration. The DSS is also giving Nigerians the assurance of their safety during the Salah celebration.
In the past weeks, this service uncovered a sinister plot by terrorist elements to stage series of coordinated attacks using explosives on different cities across the country. Their aim was to hit on soft targets such as markets, public parks, public processions, recreation centers, as well as worship centers, especially the Eid grounds and other densely populated areas during the forthcoming Eid al-Fitr Salah celebration. The latest plan by the terrorists was to unleash mayhem on Kano, Sokoto, Kaduna, and Maiduguri. Consequently, the service wishes to announce that the planned terrorist attacks in Kano and aforementioned states have been nipped in the bud. This followed the arrest of Yusuf Adamu and Abdulmuminu Haladu in the early hours of today, Friday, 23rd June 2017 in Sokoto. Adamu and his accomplice were to command the operation in Kano.
The acting president, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, wants the Nigerian military to use cyberspace more in the fight against terrorism. The acting president was speaking at the graduation of senior officers of the Nigerian Army Course 39, held at the Armed Forces Command and Staff College, Jaji, Kaduna State. He urged the graduates to make maximum use of the 48 weeks of intense training on the field to reinforce a better ideology among Nigerians. Our correspondent Gloria Umezuke reports.
The next item.
Flanked by the Kaduna State Governor, Malam Nasir El-Rufai, Commandant of the Armed Forces Command and Staff College and Service Chiefs, the acting president kick-started the event. 187 graduates of the Senior Course 39 took turns to receive their certificates after 48 weeks of intense training. The acting president, who then charged members of the armed forces on the theme, "We can build a new nation," identified cyberspace as the new battlefield to tackle issues of terrorism and hate media.
As members of the armed forces, especially its elite, with a mandate to protect Nigeria from all forms of internal and external aggression, you will increasingly be judged as much on the basis of your success online as on your successes on the conventional battlefield. The internet has altered or disrupted every industry we know of: politics, elections, business and commerce, governance, and is changing the very nature of warfare. This means that the military and its officers and men must itself devote resources and talent to these new battlefields, where mindless verdicts on the continued unity and existence of Nigeria are daily being delivered.
Professor Osinbajo also described as tragic the failure to distinguish clearly the act of freedom of expression and divisive speech capable of destroying the nation's democracy.
The problem with hate and divisive speech is that they tap into some of the basest humanism, bringing up irrational suspicions, fear, anger, and hatred, and ultimately resulting in mindless violence. People who have lived together as neighbors and friends suddenly begin to see each other as mortal enemies. The tensions that led to the killing of over 800,000 Tutsis and Hutus considered Tutsi sympathizers in the Rwandan genocide were roused by the hate media.
The 2017 Senior Course 39 has had the benefit of a rejigged curriculum, improved to ensure the officers are able to handle contemporary operational requirements and tackle current challenges. We don't need a perfect union to have a great country. Some of the striking words of the acting president to members of the armed forces, who he urges to adopt a global mindset and quell the voices of unrest. From Jaji in Kaduna, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
Ahead of the 2019 general elections, the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Ibrahim Idris, is proposing a special court for kidnappers. Mr. Idris made the proposal at a meeting with members of civil society organizations and the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission in Abuja. He says the police is working hard to ensure that security is strengthened before the election.
Although the 2019 general election is more than 1 year from now, this meeting of the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, the police and civil society organizations, is to assess the preparedness for a successful election. The convener of the meeting sets the tone, asking the police to address current security challenge, including kidnapping, which he says can affect the elections.
I think that looking around the country, there are very serious national security issues that we need to work and support the police to deal with. And one of them is the now national spread of kidnapping. We hope that we will get the same commitment from the IGP to have quarterly engagements with you, especially leading up to 2019 and even more.
Responding to the observation of the civil society organizations regarding security, the Inspector General of Police speaks on some measures he thinks will help to address the situation.
We have to get special courts to address this issue of kidnapping. Two, we have to look at also the punishment. You know, the issue of punishment is very, very important, because it can deter some of these will be what you call it kidnappers.
Meanwhile, the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmoud Yaqub, explains steps the commission is taking to ensure credible polls in 2019.
The credibility of any election largely depends on the credibility of the voter. It's critical. It's the foundation. Without a credible voter register, you can't conduct credible elections. But the credibility of the voter register depends on two factors. One, access. To what extent do citizens have access to the register? And two, that register must be continuously updated.
Security is a very critical factor in Nigeria's elections, as the lack of it can lead to the postponement of an election, as was the case in some recent polls conducted. Hence, rights activists want the police to address this concern.
To legal matters now, the Supreme Court has ordered a member of the House of Representatives representing Vandikwa and Konchisha Federal Constituency of Benue State, Mr. Herman Hembe, to vacate his post immediately. The court also ruled that Mr. Hembe should be replaced by Mrs. Dorothy Mato, who's been declared the rightful winner of the All Progressives Congress ticket for that constituency. Mr. Hembe is also to return all salaries and benefits collected while in office to the federal government within 90 days. And staying with the Supreme Court, the gavel also fell on the senator representing Taraba North, Senator Abubakar Danladi, and he's also been told to vacate his seat immediately. Senator Danladi is also to refund all the salaries and allowances he received as senator within 90 days. The court has now pronounced Mr. Shuaibu Lau of the All Progressives Congress the new senator representing Taraba North. And the Federal High Court in Abuja has affirmed the election of Governor Aminu Tambuwal of Sokoto State. The presiding judge, Justice Gabriel Kolawole, says the application challenging the correctness of the December 4th, 2014 primary election of the All Progressives Congress in the state, through which Mr. Tambuwal emerged flag bearer of the APC, lacked merit and is therefore dismissed. Another member of the All Progressives Congress, Mr. Umar Dahiru, approached the court, requesting that it sets aside the APC primaries following allegations of non-compliance with laid-down rules in the selection of the party's flag-bearer.
2 months after the Supreme Court ordered a Federal High Court to hear the case filed by a lawmaker, Senator Umar Dahiru, challenging the election of Governor Aminu Tambuwal, the Federal High Court has dismissed the suit for the second time for lacking in merit. According to Justice Gabriel Kolawole, of what use will it be for the court to grant the plaintiffs relief, setting aside the primary election that produced Governor Tambuwal and ordering a fresh primary election which will require a fresh conduct of the governorship elections in Sokoto State? He added that having looked at submissions of parties in the suit, he has come to a conclusion that the plaintiff's suit failed and all the reliefs sought are hereby dismissed. At the last proceedings, the counsel to Senator Dahiru, Chief Roland Otaru, urged the court to void and set aside the primary election that produced Tambuwal for the 2015 governorship elections in Sokoto State. His grounds was that the constitution of the APC and party guidelines for the primary election and the Electoral Act were violated in the conduct of the primary election. Counsel to the governor drew the attention of the court to the evidence of Senator Dahiru before the court in 2015, where he admitted that the accreditation of delegates was conducted, and a further affidavit filed by the lawmaker in 2017, where he made a U-turn that no accreditation was done.
It is one petition from the summary of this judgment that was dead on arrival before this court.
Like you heard in the court, the judgment will be ready by Wednesday. We are going to look at the judgment, we are going to study it, and then we sit with our client to take the necessary action.
Lawyers to the plaintiff could not confirm whether the lawmaker will for a second time appeal the judgment of the Federal High Court. Amaka Okafu, Channels Television News.
The Senate President, Dr. Bukola Saraki, says he's not worried about the federal government's decision to file an appeal against the ruling of the Code of Conduct Tribunal. Dr. Saraki, in a press statement, says he's confident that the verdict at the appellate court would not be different from that of the CCT, as the facts of the case remain the same and the grounds on which the CCT based its decision remain unassailable. The Senate President is also accusing the chairman of the Presidential Committee on Anti-Corruption, Professor Ishe Sage, of interfering in the judicial process, an act he describes as corrupt. Dr. Saraki says he believes the fresh appeal would be an exercise in futility, noting that it was only another attempt to commence a trial, quote, without any substance, end of quote.